Hey guys, this is Liner Judah from the Guild 7 from Thunderhorn server. So glad to be with you on another video. And I have some special guests with me. I have Mauguine the Warrior, who's our main tank. I have Neotoldir, who's a good friend of mine, the DK. And then I have Zaratool, the Shaman, who's my guild master. So today we're going to be talking about basically the quality of WoW up until 6.2. You know, we got the naval missions, we got a whole bunch of stuff now finally in this 8-month gap period between, the launch of this expansion was not so great, and, but the leveling content was amazing. But now we're at a spot again to where we finally get good content in 6.2. But is it up to the standard? Is it up to the standard that Blizzard usually did in the past? So I'm going to take it off with Mauguine first to see, like, what do you think, Mauguine? Do you think right now WoW is at a critical point of maybe losing more and more subscribers because of their, lack of content, I guess? Ben?
So let me state about how I feel about WoW and stuff. I play for the rating. And I'll enjoy the story and stuff like that, but I like the rating. And I like the dungeons and stuff like that. That's what I like. And I think that, um, High Mall was okay. Blackrock Foundry was a little better, and Hellfire Citadel looks like it's going to be pretty good. Like those are some pretty, it's some pretty decent stuff. And so I'm okay, but it does seem like uh, Blizzard promised a lot of stuff at the beginning. Um, they it doesn't seem like they've discontinued a few things, or they didn't follow through with a few things. Um, and now it seems like they're kind of cutting the expansion short, and it feels like to me like there's no explanation. And I wanted a third raid expansion or raid patch, for this expansion. Doesn't look like it's going to happen. I'm still hoping maybe they're just kind of like trying to guerrilla advertise, some stuff at us, but um, it doesn't seem like they're going to do it. So I'm a little disappointed in that, but I don't know. I'm still waiting to see. I mean, I still love WoW, but I think they've got some issues they got to work through.
I agree completely. And Neo, what is your whole take on how the expansion is going up so far?
For me, I just really, I'm okay with it. I understand that this is a shorter raid expansion, or at least in terms of raid tiers. But from what I understand, they said this guy, I forget who his name is, said that this is the last raid patch of the expansion at this point in time. But for me, it's like I don't really know what to think. Maybe it is, maybe it's not, because I mean they're pushing out more content, which is cool, and I like that. But it's like less time to do things, and I know people are like bored easy. But then like they also said Gromosh is going to be the final boss of the expansion. That hasn't happened yet, probably won't. They said flying wasn't going to be in Draenor, and now they're adding in a way to get it. So I mean, I'm kind of just taking this whole idea with a grain of salt, whether or not this is going to be the last raid patch. The way my theory is that we might have a mini raid pre-patch kind of a thing, kind of like, Arthas and Lich King was the final boss of the Lich King expansion, Wrath of Lich King, but we still got, the Ruby Sanctum after that as a kind of as a crap raid afterwards that just kind of led up to the whole expansion of Cataclysm, and it was kind of like a precursor to what was coming. Something similar to that is what I'm expecting at the end of this expansion, whether it's a raid or something similar to that.
See, I know with this whole thing with tier, or not tier, but like this is the last tier and all of their stuff, I never would have expected, which that we're to talk about later, in this video, but I never would have expected a two-tier expansion without Blizzard firmly saying something. But Zara, like, what's your take on the expansion so far as, the game of development and how Blizzard communicates with us and stuff?
Well, I'm gonna state where I am, pretty like how Mauguine did. I've been playing WoW for a while. I enjoy the game. I enjoy the rating. Uh, this expansion has been a little kind of, I don't know how to describe it, like like highs and lows. Like the beginning of the expansion, it was very exciting. The storytelling was very well done. I enjoyed how they did it in chapters with nice cinematics when you finish the main quest lines and areas that really gave you good story. Uh, I didn't necessarily care for the high mole rate itself, the bosses, the way you actually killed the first boss and he was maybe gonna live, and I don't know what their plan was with that, and I didn't care for the mechanics. Blackrock Foundry was a little better. Um, and then I like Hellfire quite a bit, but it's taken a long time to get these few things to get better. The ratings got better, and I understand, some people don't play this game for rating. Maybe they play it for PvP, or they want to collect mounts, or they want to go back to Myths and tend their farm, or whatever they want to do. But I feel that they've made some mistakes here and there, obviously. Most of them with their PR stuff is where they mainly made their mistakes. Um, as for the game itself, I don't know about necessarily mistakes, but where they have dropped the ball. As Mauguine was saying, they obviously promised us things. I mean, promises aren't guarantees, of course. And every expansion's had, something where, oh, we want to do this and introduce this, and it doesn't work out. It happens. But from the drop of the expansion up until recently Hellfire, we've had 2 patches. One was the Twitter whatever, which I feel was a complete waste of time and effort by the company. That's something they could have done when all the big stuff was done and thrown it in on any maintenance whenever. And you had Blackrock Foundry. I feel from the start of the expansion to Blackrock Foundry should have been one big content patch, and it should have been put in months sooner. And there should have been a little bit more to it. I feel that they did great telling the story of the game, but then all of a sudden it's like you get to this point of the story where it's like, oh my god, all this great story, and it's going, and then just dead stop. And they don't, like, it doesn't keep going. And then they add more content, and all you get is more legendary quests to do, and you pretty much knock out all the story of their content patch in about 2 hours, and then you're completely done with the game, if that's your thing, and you just sit there and wait for 8 months. I feel we've been, if anything, more and more is being taken out of the game instead of putting in. I know that obviously garrisons were a big thing. They were a good
Character
idea.
models.
Character models, of course. That's you have to update the game graphics as much as you can. But for the game itself, it's like people wanted player housing. They talked about it. Garrisons are some form of an answer, whether they change, whether they get taken out, something completely new gets put in later on, who knows. But I've noticed what happened is they planned the garrisons, and then like they didn't seem to plan them to last. It kind of just became this chore, which it didn't become fun, or something you don't even really need to bother with anymore, or a place that you just run around in circles all day unless you're raiding because you get bored, because unless you want to go farm mounts and old stuff and 100% completionist type person, there really isn't anything to do because you're done with the story. You can't progress. There is no more progression until Blizzard gives you, more of the story, which we technically don't have the story completed yet. We will get it as LFR opens. Unless you can go in and raid and get all the bosses down right away, that's one thing. But the way the story is technically progressing in time base, when the last section of LFR opens, that is the end of the game. That's in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So I have a question
That's
then.
it.
So basically, the way you said you like the chapters and everything for the questing, which I agree. The questing was probably the best it's ever been. But maybe, do you think maybe they added too much story in the questing, and maybe they could have did filler in a lot of the areas instead of it going complete main story in just the beginning, and then it kind of falls off at the end game? Maybe if they were to do story and then one thing filler, story and then filler, so that way
Absolutely. They
when
should have dragged it out a little longer. Like how we got those great chapters, that was great, but maybe they should have continued it. Maybe it should have got to a certain point where, you get to a raid and you get a whole bunch more story and it continues. And when you get like the fourth boss down in the wing of whatever wing you want to go into, like everyone that is there, and maybe you can only do it normal, or maybe they could open it in LFR later on, but this way they can progress the story. Like it takes them a little bit longer, but instead of it being like a huge empty gap, what you do is like you clear one wing of the raid and you open up maybe a little quest hub. Maybe it starts in your garrison, you do some quests, and you get like another chapter to the story, and you can continue on and have fun. Now, some people could care less about the story. They don't read anything. They just want to go farm, bosses, and, I'm the best, and whatever. But even those people are getting to the point where they're bored, and they would want to do story just to keep something kind of going and exciting.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like, the questing was amazing and everything like that, like I said, but even when it came to like endgame, I felt like they had no plan for endgame other than your garrisons and raiding. Like there was really nothing. There was hardly any dailies unless you wanted to go Apex's daily grinding, which was, oh my god, like atrocious. I hated it. I still sort of hate it, to be honest. I feel like the rewards is it doesn't reward you enough. Like you're there for like, some of them take 5 minutes, others take like 20 minutes if you're doing it by yourself. Probably even a little longer depending on the class. But I just feel like Blizzard dropped the ball, yes, in communication, but I feel like even with other games right now, their devs better control what they say, and they're in direct communication. I just feel like Blizzard has been used to using weasel words. Oh, we may do this. Oh, we might go that route. Oh, this may or may not happen. Just fucking, just tell us. Just tell. We're not babies. You know what I mean? We're adults. We can handle whatever decision y'all are gonna make if it's for the good of the game or whatever. But I just feel like there's someone else like puppeteering Blizzard employees. That they can't even really fully say what they really want to say because there's probably some corporate CEO breathing down their neck. Or I just feel like it's different from the way it was in the past. And that's just personally how I feel. Does anyone else want to say anything about this particular subject? We good?
Well, I've kind of this is Mauguine. I do always kind of get the feeling like you think about it and you kind of do a little thought experiment in your head about how things would work, how life works, how business works. I mean, Blizzard is a business, and yes, they try to put out a high quality game, but they are a business, and they have to make a profit, and they have to satisfy their shareholders and stuff like that. They are a publicly traded company. The shareholders are important. What they want is important. So the devs do things, and then if the players get upset, maybe the shareholders sit up, or say, "Whoa, hey, whoa, you might be cutting into our profit," and then they might step in and say, "No, you're going to have to do something different." So we wonder whether or not that has an effect. And we like, kind of like what happened with flying. I mean, the devs were saying no flying.
Oh yeah.
And then a lot of people, like whether it was connected or not, a lot of people dropped subs. Now, did
Mhm.
shareholders step in and say, no, you're going to put flying in, and then, kind of pretty much made the devs do something? And we don't know. But it seems like
But
these
it's a
are important
possibility.
things,
Yeah.
and we want to know. And I think they should share it.
Yeah, and I don't think there isn't any um, drawback in saying something like, you know, it's them being honest for once, and feeling honesty is important, especially because I feel cheated. I really do. When it came to 6.2, and that person said this is the final patch of the expansion, I felt cheated. I spent almost $60 in this game, and I've been getting a 3-tier expansion forever, and then all out of nowhere they're just going to give me a 2-tier. Like, it made no sense to me as a subscriber, and it just felt like, it was very chicken shit. That's just how I say it. It's chicken shit. It's, you didn't have the guts to tell me that you were going to produce a 2-tier expansion. They could have said that at BlizzCon. They could have said that if they knew this was going to be a 2-tier.
Well, for me, honestly, Ben has a point. We don't know. Maybe they didn't plan to have a 2-tier expansion. Maybe the shareholders were pissed off that people were getting angry that the fact that content wasn't coming out as fast. And so I feel like we can't just simply blame Blizzard just because of the way things are going, because the point, Gromosh was considered the final boss of the expansion. There was no flying, but both were put in, and now this is happening. So, I feel like there might be some involvement from somebody else that's not Blizzard that has some say that, maybe they're trying something different, or maybe they should try something different, so they're trying something in a way. And I know you feel cheated, and I know, that's a feeling that people get, and I can understand that, but I think there's something more here that we don't know. But I don't think businesses, like companies, should be like, these guys are bullying us, and they think that we're not doing so well, so we're going to tell our guys, we're going to tell all of our customers, all of our people that are sub to us, what our problems are. And our shareholders don't think that, they're not going to just sit there and tell you like the entirety of how their company is run and or how their plans go. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, you can't do that.
But at the same time, in the past, Blizzard has always been, I've always felt a sense of honesty, even in the weasel words, even in their intent. Like,
Blizzard was a small company back then. They could do that.
I understand where you're coming from, with the, you feel cheated and you feel like they're honest, but like, it is a business and they can't, go running like, oh my God, guys, we'd love to make you cool stuff, but our shareholders are threatening. Yeah, you can't, they can't do that as a company, The one thing you gotta always do is, make it seem like the ship is sailing straight and true at all times, no matter how bad things are, behind the curtain. And, that's where I think they fell off a little PR-wise, where I think we've all kind of, raised an eyebrow and been like, what is going on? Like, when we were told about the no flying, I don't think that was the right time to do it, or the way it was done. I think if they originally were going, like, that was on the table, it should have been brought up and decided on before the expansion was dropped, whether no flying or flying, and I'm pro flying, so, but I would have rather a decision have been made before that, and been notified like, hey, this next expansion, we're not going to bring flying in. The zone isn't too big. We've developed it a certain way. We've added a lot more flight points, whatever, and then sold it. They sell it to you that way. Is there's no flying, but we made it so it's still going to be great. Like, you won't need it. But instead it kind of just turned into this meh, and then, they say no, then, the original notion was, yes, we're going to put flying in the game later on. Basically, when the Hellfire raid comes out, like when we go up against Gul'dan, we're going to bring flying in. And what happened was that started to come up, and then people, kind of like, oh, we're going to get it soon, we're going to get it soon. And they went, yeah, you know what, we're thinking maybe not. And it doesn't matter if people were for or against flying. At that point, you had people that were just like mad because you promised them something, and now you're taking it away. And it's not like a promise of like a whole new content. It's a promise of doing something we've already been doing. It's something that's already in the game. just in this area. So I think that's where a lot of people all of a sudden, like you say, oh yeah, you trusted them or whatever, but I mean, you never trust a company. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
That's just, that. But the thing is, I can understand where a lot of people kind of started feeling like, wow, Blizz might not really care, and maybe they're not putting flying in just because they have to come in on Saturday to write the last code, and they just don't feel like doing that. Like, that's what people think. It doesn't matter what's true or what makes sense. That's the way people's minds work. And then when their minds start doing that, they get angry. And when they get angry, it's you versus them, us versus them versus us. And then once that starts happening, it's like it's too late. It's fuck them. They're just failing. All they want is my $15 a month. And then it just starts this, I mean, you could see it, like, the forums have just been more and more pissed off than usual. Like, every expansion's had the, why Kata failed, why Mist failed, why Wrath failed, why Burning Crusade failed. I don't think any of them really failed. They had points that failed, but the expansions themselves weren't a total fail. Like, in Kata, great start. Firelands was awesome. Good quest hubs, neat things to do, great story. Dragon Soul was terrible.
Yeah.
And there's videos about it. I'm sure you could watch. We can go into detail. And
still waiting for the
waiting for a real Deathwing fight. Yeah, me too. But like that, they all have that. You're always going to have people why it failed. You're always going to have people they didn't like something. Kata was too hard in the beginning or whatever. But if you notice, like the forums, the videos are more and more. There's more and more people doing it. Obviously, we're here doing it today. If there's more and more people doing it, and there's more and more people talking about it, and there's less and less people playing, maybe there's something wrong.